The men and women graduating today, you come from the rest of us, but you are the best of us. You're the pride of your family, and you're the pride of the American people.
That was Vice President Mike Pence addressing graduates of the U.S. Coast Guard Academy in New London, Connecticut earlier this week.
Members of the Guard are spending this Memorial Day weekend joining the Navy in Fleet Week celebrations. It's happening here in New York, a city that has a long and storied history with the Coast Guard. Dahler has the story.
This week, more than a dozen Navy and Coast Guard ships took part in a 30-year tradition, parading through New York Harbor for Fleet Week. The nautical display lasts just a few days, but the U.S. Coast Guard patrols the waterways of New York all year long.
As Frank Sinatra would say, start spreading the news. You are about to become a Coast Guard city.
And this month, the city was honored as the country's 25th and largest Coast Guard city.
Proclamation of the United States Coast Guard.
The proclamation coming from Sector New York Commander Captain Michael Day.
Is one of the elements that New York is welcoming to your presence and your activities here?
Without a doubt, New York is one of the most patriotic, one of the most welcoming cities that I've ever been stationed at.
Day is in charge of more than 1,000 active duty and reserve guardsmen and women in a city where the Coast Guard was founded nearly 240 years ago by Alexander Hamilton.
Right here in New York City, right at Federal Hall, George Washington signed it in August 4th, 1790. So we've got a lot of history here with the city of New York.
What was the purpose originally?
It started off as a revenue cutter service as the ships were coming in and there were people avoiding paying their taxes, so a customs type of duty.
The history may have been lost on most, but not the creator of Hamilton the musical.
How does Hamilton, the short-tempered protean creator of the Coast Guard, founder of the New York Post?
But he just says creator of the Coast Guard, founder of the New York Post, just like randomly. If you're not really listening to it, you would not catch it at all.
Michael Louaye plays Alexander Hamilton on Broadway.
That in itself is sort of like a modicum of what the show is. It speaks volumes to me because it's just like he did that and he did that.
The Coast Guard's presence in New York has evolved considerably from the original revenue cutters. The service now oversees everything from maritime security for the UN General Assembly and July 4th celebrations in the summer to ice-breaking missions in the Hudson River in the winter, not to mention the rescues.
You can't think of the Coast Guard and not remember, say, an aircraft went down in the river and you guys were right there. Those pictures of that they're just indelible.
Yeah, Miracle on the Hudson, of course, Superstorm Sandy, 9/11. Coast Guard played an integral role in a lot of the darkest hours for the city.
Captain Day led what's been called America's Dunkirk.
The great boat lift of 9/11 became the largest sea evacuation in history.
As explained in the 2011 documentary short Boat Lift, 500,000 people were rescued from Lower Manhattan after the terrorist attacks on September 11th, 2001.
All available boats. This is the United States Coast Guard aboard the pilot boat New York. Anyone want to help with the evacuation of Lower Manhattan, report to Governor's Island.
Day organized an amateur armada of private boats, ferries, and tugboats.
About 15, 20 minutes later, they're just boats all across the horizon. It started actually very small scale, but seeing how efficient it was, the Coast Guard made the call for all available boats and was just inundated with help in getting those people off.
Captain Day, in what you did, you changed the course of history for the better.
Captain Day's service was recognized by New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio. Day's tour of duty in the city is ending next month. Incoming Captain Jason Tama will now lead the Sector New York into the future.
How would you define what the Coast Guard's duties are now?
You know, I think a lot you can trace back to 1790, and as the port has grown and the population has grown, that mission has become perhaps more dynamic in some ways, but really the roles are fundamentally the same. It's the safety, security, and resilience of the harbor.
For CBS This Morning Saturday, Don Dahler, New York.